Hey, this is Dina from the Game Den, and here's how I did the opening for the Golden Axe episode. It started with an idea to have a mascot. I figured that using my art and 3D modeling skills would help set me apart from other reviewers. So I did these little drawings in the hotel room at MagFest. I know they don't look great, but it was just a way to develop what this cat mascot would look like and how it might move. It was modeled using 3D Studio Max Release 7. I don't know if it's the most recent version, but it's what I have. And here you can see the cat model in wireframe mode. I really didn't... Those drawings that you saw already was pretty much all I did as far as preliminary stuff. I really didn't put a whole lot of thought into what I wanted it to look like. I just wanted this cute little cartoon cat, and I just figured I would just kind of dive into it and see how it turned out. And I wanted it to be simplistic anyway, so it really didn't involve a lot of thought. Also, at the time, I hadn't decided yet what I wanted to do with it, so I actually figured it would be pretty small on the screen. I didn't expect it to be the focal point the way it was. Now here it is with Mesh Smooth applied. In case you don't know what Mesh Smooth is, it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it doubles the polygon count and kind of smooths out your model. It's a lot less time-consuming than actually doing all of those polygons yourself. This isn't something you can do if you're concerned about having too many polygons, which is why they don't use it in video games. There's almost no real texture mapping on it. Mainly I just slapped a shiny black material on it. The only texture mapping is on the eyes because that was the only detail I really wanted it to have. I just wanted this shiny black silhouette with big yellow eyes. Again, partly because I thought it would only be seen from a distance, so I figured details weren't necessary. Now you get to see the skeleton. 3D Studio Max has this wonderful little plugin called Biped. And obviously, as the name implies, it's really meant for animating two-legged characters, but it can also be used for four-legged characters. You just have to be a little more careful with it. What it basically does is it creates this little pre-rigged skeleton for you, and all you really have to do is just go in and tweak the size of the bones to get them to the proportions of your character, and then you just attach it to your character using another plugin called Physique, and there you go. You do not have to rig your own damn skeletons, and oh my god, I love not having to do that. It's so nice. Here's obviously the cat and the skeleton together. Not really a whole lot to say about that. It's kind of interesting, I guess. Now it kind of looks like someone dumped acid on the cat. It's kind of good to hide the cat mesh while animating the skeleton. So it's easier to select the bones that way and move them around, and you don't have to worry about accidentally selecting the mesh and messing it up. Plus you can just see the bones better that way, and they're just easier to grab. But yeah, here's what the animation looked like while I was working on it. Then of course at some point you have to unhide the mesh so you can see how it reacts to the bones moving around, and sometimes you have to kind of tweak how the mesh is connected to the skeleton. This is like the point where sometimes you find little errors that you made while attaching it and you have to go back and fix it, and there's a lot of tweaking involved in this stage. And here's how the finished cat animation looks in the viewport in 3D Studio Max before I rendered it out. From a different angle, of course. Here it is in wireframe mode again. And here it is viewed through the camera. The spinning text was also done in 3D Max. There's probably more simple ways to do it, but this is just the way I knew how, so it's what I did. Basically, each letter is on its own path, and they just spin around in a circle and come together at the end. It's a lot of tweaking involved, but there's not a whole lot of real explaining I can do about it. It's pretty straightforward. Once I rendered that out, I saved each of the frames, and then I took them all into Photoshop, where I added the white outline manually to each letter in each frame individually. It was probably way more work than I should have done, but there you go. Then I took all those frames into Adobe Image Ready, where I Basically made an animated GIF out of it. Again, probably not the best way to do it, but it's just the way I knew how to do it, so that's what I did. Here you can get a pretty good idea of what the letters look like by themselves. For the sky, I just made a plane that sat behind the cat and just filled the camera's field of vision, and I applied a sky texture to it. It's a very long texture, and basically I animated it in such a way that just the texture scrolls. By the way, since I wanted the sky to be as accurate as possible, I actually took a bunch of screenshots from the game's title sequence and combined them in Photoshop to make this texture. In the end, I decided to render it out separately from the cat, and then I just combined the two later on in Sony Vegas. Mainly because there was an effect I wanted to do with the sky, and I just didn't quite know how to do it in 3D Max. So what I did was I rendered out the light version of the sky, and then I also did a dark version of it, and I just rendered them out separately, and then I combined them both in Vegas later on, so it switched from the light sky to the dark sky. Here you can see all the layers I ended up doing in Sony Vegas. I also rendered out the cat separately with a bright green background so I could use the chroma key effect. And here's the cat, the sky, and the title. And you can see how the sky turns dark halfway through. Now here it is with all the effects added. Doing my name in the style of the Sega logo I did in Photoshop. The blinking text is just added in Sony Vegas. Also where the logo changes colors, that effect was done in Photoshop then animated in Adobe Image Ready. Forgot to mention that earlier. And now the finished product as compared to the original.